Joining BYU Sports Nation once again, friend of the program and Super Bowl 29 MVP. He is in Phoenix to watch the game. Steve Young. Steve, welcome back to BYU Sports Nation.
Hey, always good to be with you guys.
What's it like watching the Super Bowl when you've played in that game?
For the first few years, I really was drawn to trying to get back on the field, or at least thinking about it, because it's such, it's everything. It takes everything you have to be in that spot and to face that music and do that in such a way that, there's a little bit of a draw to it. And then over the years, I think I think I'm more become a spectator like everyone else, just, looking at the different players, and I don't have that draw as much. And so it's more enjoyable probably over the years.
How do you enjoy watching the game now? And can you watch it with certain people, or do you make sure that you're in a particular group when you watch the game?
Well, I do the ESPN Monday nights, and I do Monday nights, the 16 Monday nights in the fall, and then I have my little in my office, just down the street from my home. I do anything else you ever see me do is in my office. I pull the screen down and turn on the little telepresence, and I'm good to go. So that's my responsibilities all year long, which are pretty nice and not much travel. The one thing that's outside of that is the Super Bowl, and I'm on after the game with Tom Jackson and Chris Berman. So that's kind of why I'm in Phoenix, to be honest with you.
The media day buildup is unbelievable. How has it changed from the time that you were there experiencing media day on that Tuesday to now in 2015?
20 years ago, yesterday was our Super Bowl, and the truth is, it's probably not a ton different. I mean, it's a worldwide event. It was then. I think that, it's probably, there's just more people in the world who love football, and it's kind of continued to grow. So I think that, there's probably more media than ever, but the crush and the crazy questions and the insanity and and the focus. I mean, that was I think maybe by the late 80s. The Super Bowl really changed forever, and I think it stayed pretty, not static, but certainly it was something that caught your attention because you knew that something big was about to happen.
We always hear this great story that Joe Montana, sees John Candy in the stands, before the last drive against the Bengals. I was wondering if you had any kind of experience where the game kind of slowed down and you noticed something else, or you were just in that moment.
Hey, I was standing there. I saw John Candy way before he did. I had all the time in the world.
You told him he was in the stands?
No, I didn't. But I'm just saying, I had nothing else to do. I was looking around the crowd. I just stood there the whole time. That was embarrassing.
So,
for me, I think beating the Cowboys, which is such a big deal. You think about the Cowboys, that was the break in their could have been 4-year run of Super Bowls and one of the all-time great teams. And the first two games that they won the Super Bowls went over the top of us. So winning that game made the Super Bowl not an afterthought, but certainly just emotionally was much more calm and relaxed for the Super Bowl. And I guess the funniest thing is, I think that a couple years before, Whitney Houston had sung the national anthem famously at the Super Bowl. And then, so at your Super Bowl, you're thinking, oh, my gosh, who's going to sing the national anthem? Kathleen Gifford, I appreciate her and think she's wonderful, but it just wasn't what I was thinking was going to be the draw for the national anthem. That's what I remember.
Steve Young with us on BYU Sports Nation. We're talking Super Bowl, and, of course, we'll get to some BYU as well. Steve, when the game started, you talked it was relaxing. It clearly relaxed. You threw 6 touchdown passes. Did you have to pinch yourself at any point, like, I can't believe this is happening?
Well, what's funny is Mike Shanahan, he's Mr. Goldberg again. So, before the game, we went over it again and again and again. And for the 16th time, because there's so much time waiting for the game to start, he looked at me and said, Steve, we're going to throw 8 touchdowns. I want 8 touchdowns. And I was like, come on, Mike, that's funny. Don't say that. That's just dumb. And so we had 4 at halftime, and he said, we're going to do it. Watch this. We're going to do it. And then when George Seifert decided to pull me out, like mid-early fourth quarter, Mike Shanahan had threw one of the greatest fits of all time because he had 6 and he had 2 more to go and he was going to do it. So for me, I was just kind of following direction,
So 6.
Six was a disappointment.
Yeah. What in the world? That's amazing. Steve, when you look at the Seahawks and Patriots, what's a matchup that you look at that you think will determine the outcome of the game?
Well, interestingly enough, this is the era of the quarterback, more so than ever before. We know that the rules have been changed to protect quarterbacks more so they can do their jobs better. And now, famously, now that since 2006, they've been able to prepare the footballs just the way they want them, so they can throw things that they really like. Which I could spend 15 minutes telling you about how miserable my life was because we couldn't control them. But and also the rules against the defensive backs. You can't chuck, you can't grab. Now, also, you can't use the helmet to helmet. There's all kinds of things that keep defenses at bay. And so this is the era of the quarterback. And you've seen the great ones rack up numbers like you've never seen. So this is the era we're in. And so going into that era, the two iconic quarterbacks of this era are Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. And last year, the Seattle Seahawks defense went to New York for the Super Bowl and just smashed the Broncos and Peyton. And it's amazing to me that what they did. And now, a year later, they're going to take the other iconic quarterback and maybe do the same thing in an era when it's not supposed to be defensive. So to me, that's the most interesting and dynamic story, is the Seattle Seahawks defense playing like the Steel Curtain of the 70s. So, everybody wants to watch them. Everyone I know that plays quarterback talks about the Seattle Seahawks defense. It's like, I just want to watch them play because they're simple, they're straightforward, and they just run you over. And it's like, you don't see that. All that I just said, you don't see in the NFL anymore. You see all these different amoeba defenses, safeties raining down, all this, complex tactics and everything. These are just 11 guys that line up. Basically, Tom Brady's going to be looking for signs of what defense they're going to play. I have a feeling Cam Chancellor might yell it out. Hey, Tom, man, single safety, let's go. Snap the ball. And then they'll go beat him up. And so to me, that's what all I want to watch. Is the iconic quarterback, second in a row now, going up against this defense in misshapen for the era, and see if they can do something incredible in my mind.
Steve Young with us. He's joining us from Phoenix, Arizona. Will participate in the Super Bowl festivities this weekend for ESPN analysis and whatnot. Steve, BYU Football has scheduled some Super Bowl-type games in the future, if you will, against LSU and Missouri and Michigan State. What do you think about this trend of BYU going out and scheduling the big boys in Independence?
I love it because we've got to do it. Our program needs to grow. It can't be shrinking. It's not like a melting iceberg. We've got to be growing. And the only way to grow in independence is to go out and play these guys and show up and beat them. And we've got to have that mentality. We got to get that ESPN contract renewed. We've got to be able to be a force in the nation's football landscape. So to me, the more that we look at Notre Dame as the only other independent that really matters. They have to do the same thing. We've got to. I appreciate the fact that Savannah State agreed to play us, but we cannot be shrinking. There's two programs in the state that are growing, Utah State and Utah, and we've got to stay there. And we've got to take these challenges, and we've got to go beat them. And we got to stay. We got to act like that, be like that, and become that team that's a force. And so I don't want to do it. I don't think we're ready to play those guys every week, but certainly we got to be ready to go and play and win.
At what point, I guess, is it too tough when BYU schedules say, I don't know, at some point, too many Power 5 teams? Is there a too tough line somewhere?
Yeah, but I think people will appreciate that. I guess that's what I'm saying is people will appreciate the fact that if you go down and play really, as tough a schedule as you see in the SEC or the Big 12, then number one, as you guys were just talking about, maybe we're more likely perceptionally that we're ready to go to one of these power conferences when they expand. We need to be doing that. We need to be playing these guys, and then I don't think we have to win every one of them, but we got to win some, and we got to be competitive, and we got to be a tough out. Wherever we go, BYU is a tough out. And so if we do that, then over time, as we play more and more of these teams, people will say, hey, don't just schedule BYU because they're going to come and they're knock you in the nose and beat you. And as long as we can, and that's what I say, I don't. If we had 10 really tough games, people would appreciate a 5-5 record. They'd see that I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying people watch closely. And because of that, I think you get the appreciation nationally, which is what we need if we're going to be around and growing as an independent.
Steve, you have delivered. We are now fired up for what starts 218 days from now, and that is BYU in Nebraska.
Oh, see? Now I'm fired up. You just sent shivers up my spine. I'm ready to go play, and I'm hoping that everybody else. We cannot shrink, because once we do, we'll never stop that momentum downward. We've got to keep expanding. And I appreciate the fact that Tom's looking for that kind of schedule. And now we got to get a team and recruit kids that can represent BYU and all that we are, and then go and win these football games. We got to have that. We got to just take that challenge. We got to face it and know that this is part of who we are. This is what we're going to do. And half of it is expectation. If you expect everybody to prepare that way and be ready for these kind of games, and they play them every year, and they get over the fact that they go to LSU, oh no, or Nebraska, oh no, you get over that and just go play great football. Now we're talking.
Steve, great to talk to you. Enjoy the game this weekend. We'll keep the seat warm in the studio if next time you're in town.
All right, go Cougs.
All right, thanks, Steve.